Hello there, Lipos. Feather here again. This time I'm in beautiful Lisbon. Got the Golden Gate Bridge, wannabe Golden Gate Bridge back there. I don't know if you can see it. Really enjoying this place. But anyway, that's not the point of my chat today. I wanted to reach out to you guys before we meet up again in Singapore. As I mentioned, we are super excited. The entire Percademy team is really looking forward to hanging out with you guys and continuing to learn from all of you and just enjoying our time and pushing your challenges along. So with regards to pushing your challenges along, I've gotten a chance to read a lot of your feedback. Thank you very much, by the way. Several of you spent significant time giving us feedback on how you think you and your teams and your challenges are moving along. Even got some videos, which is pretty awesome. And so I wanted to follow up on that to give you guys as much context and support as possible so that during the next week that we have before we meet, you can take advantage of it as much as possible. So point number one that I want to share with all of you is that yes, building trust, particularly when you're having short interviews, is difficult. This has been something that most of you have been saying. Many times people feel defensive, right? Particularly if they're very much involved, either in a negative or in a lukewarm way to the challenge that you're involved in. People sometimes feel that they should take too much ownership over the projects that they're doing, and that gives you as a design thinker less flexibility to open up the conversation. So I totally see that. One great way of helping people feel a little bit more comfortable and opening up these conversations and getting deeper, learning deeper, which is another thing that most of you have been saying that is difficult, is by doing something that actually Sachin is going to do, which is a life in the day of, and then you fill in the blank. Sachin is gonna turn into an agent, actually, and so he's literally gonna be shadowing agents and spending time as if he was an actual agent. And that of course takes time and it takes a little bit of planning, but it's kind of like the next step of empathy work, right? The first short interviews, formal interviews, tend to be a good place to start, a good place to get your sort of fingers dirty, but not all of your hands. The best way to get your hands and your arms and your whole body dirty is by immersing and trying this day in the life of suggestion. You can also call it like, how do I become a fly on the wall, right? And really try to become a part of the environment that you're trying to learn the most of. So to use the Europe conference teams example, I know I use that example a lot, but it's a really good one. Instead of asking people what it's like to be in a bad conference meeting, how about you just attend tons and tons of different conference meetings, right? And see how they start off, see all the technology fall apart, right? And that's even more powerful than actually having someone tell you about a certain circumstance where technology and conferences didn't work. And you can of course apply this to most of the challenges that you guys are tackling. You just need to become a little bit more creative. You need to plan a little bit in advance to put yourselves in those particular deep learning situations. Okay, so that's suggestion number one. Suggestion number two is that I've been seeing pictures of your affinity maps and participant boards. I'm really happy with all the work that you guys have been doing. Really appreciative for the fact that you guys are taking your job so seriously, especially given how busy you guys are with all the other stuff. My only suggestion around the post-it notes, data points that are on those affinity maps and participant boards is they need to be a little bit more specific and in context. So remember to try to avoid one-word post-its. Really try to explain what's going on in that particular post-it, whether it's the emotion of an individual or a gut feeling of you or one of your teammates around that particular situation. Really try to add as much meat and context as possible to those post-its, because by the way, we're going to be using a lot of that context and a lot of that meat during day 1 of module 2 with Matthew and myself. We're going to be helping you guys get deeper and deeper in the sense making and point of view building process. So following up on that point, it's really important for you guys to bring as much of your sense making content as possible with you physically to Singapore. So this might include brown papers that are rolled up or folded, right? A collection of a lot of the Post-its that you've been using, all of your notes, by the way, all of your documentation, videos, recordings, everything that you've been able to collect in your empathy process, bring it over, because we're going to be diving into it and dissecting it and pruning it and putting it together and splitting it apart again. And so it's going to be a process of massage assisted by Matthew and myself. And so you'll need all that stuff. Good. Point number 3, I'm not sure if you guys got a chance to see my extreme user video. It's really important for you guys to think about whom could potentially be your challenges extreme user. Remember that these are kind of the quirky people or groups of people on the edges, on the fringes of quote unquote society, and they are passionate, obsessive, right? Many times fully opposed, whatever it is on either side of the scale. They are much more rich in the learning that you can get from them. So really think about who that or those extreme users are and really approach them and observe them and get to know them better. Very, very important, back to the Post-its. Please don't throw away any of the Post-its that you've been able to build during the participant boards and affinity maps. Don't throw them away, because you never know when one of those Post-its are going to be useful again during the sense making process. So I'm going to suggest that you guys create kind of like a parking lot where there's these sort of random Post-its that you haven't been able to find categories for, or you feel that they're kind of outliers. Keep them, because you never know when they can be really, really important and powerful. So bring those along with you to Singapore. Yeah, so now I want to move over to this concept of point of view. I know that a lot of you guys are struggling still to land on a point of view that feels good, that feels solid, that feels manageable. That's totally on purpose. We forced you to iterate as quickly as possible to move on to your points of views really, really fast. And that's just simply part of how this process works, to force you guys through it. Because of that short time period, your points of views shouldn't be awe-inspiring, because they won't. And so I don't want you guys to worry too much about that. It's important that you do arrive in Singapore with something, right? Kind of user, your quote-unquote persona, his or her needs, and certain kind of insight that you've been able to come up with. But please don't freak out about your POVs, because by the way, POVs change all the time. They will change once we're in Singapore. They will change probably between Singapore and Dubai. They will change in Dubai, and you'll see that that's the whole point. But you do have to land on something in order to move to the next step. Good, so don't freak out about your POVs. So another thing that's been coming up a lot in the feedback that I received from many of you, and it's an interesting point, it's something I can totally identify, which is this concept of competitiveness and perfectionism. Two things that most of you guys, the lepos, have a lot of. And that's fantastic. Don't let it make you feel bad or guilty or that it's getting in the way. You just need to channel that competitiveness and perfectionism, right? Really try to use it to push yourself as much and as deeply as possible through the design thinking process without needing to get things right and wrong, right? Without needing to be the best in what you're doing, right? So it's kind of this subtle approach of being competitive, being focused, being a go-getter, being a doer, right? And at the same time being completely and openly willing to fail and to screw up and to play and to mess around, right? And to hit yourself against the wall sometimes, fight with your teammates, sometimes argue, debate, come back, hug each other, throw yourselves into the process again, right? So it's much more about dancing with that uncertainty and that potential chaos as opposed to getting shit right. Good. I know this resonates with a lot of you, totally resonates with me. I feel you. Go with the flow. Really important. Okay. Really important. The coaches have been asking me to insist that your reflections are really, really important. Some of you have already turned in some fantastic reflections. The coaches were floored by some of these, of how personal and introspective they were. So keep on going. For those of you who have not had the time to offer your weekly reflections, please do so. Really important part of the learning process. Again, research shows that one of the most significant steps towards learning is not only doing, but afterwards, and quite soon afterwards, reflecting on what that doing meant to you. So get those in, please. Yeah, I've uploaded the faces and the names of all of the lepos. So I'm going to encourage all you guys to get in there. I know you don't have too much time, but maybe you can do this during the flights. For those of you who are not based in Singapore, get in there, look at these beautiful faces, link them to these beautiful names, and learn everybody's names. It's going to be really helpful because we're going to be doing a lot of cross-team activities, and it'd be nice for you guys to get to know each other as much as possible through those names. Okay, my notes are getting closer and closer to the end. Yeah, I want to quickly introduce Megan, Joao, and Jay-Ho. These are our 3 new participants in the Lepo program. They are Pracademy veterans. Megan comes from the US. She's a hardcore Silicon Valley girl. She's been working with tons of startups and large organizations. She works for the NASDAQ there to help people become incredible rapid prototypers. She's going to be focusing on service rapid prototypes. As we mentioned, she is going to absolutely blow you away. I am completely assured of that. Joao is a Portuguese technologist who knows more about the leading technologies of the 21st century than anybody I know. He is a true geek / genius / digital competence expert, and so he's going to have a perfect fit for this part of the program. The digital trainees are going to have a blast having a chat with Joao afterwards, and you can get as techie as you want with him. We're going to be dabbling with a lot of different technologies with Joao. And finally, Jay-Ho Park. He is a professor emeritus of social psychology for Yongnam University in South Korea. Jay-Ho has served as an enormous influence and mentor in my life. He has written the leading design thinking book in Korea. He is a veteran in training and creativity research in his country and Asia more broadly. He served as consulting professor for LG, Samsung, POSCO, and some of the largest conglomerates in Korea. He's been a visiting professor at Harvard and at the University of Michigan. He'll be around to answer as many questions as you guys may have, particularly regarding how does design thinking play out in Asia. It's going to be an interesting conversation you guys can have after our modules. Okay. Oh, another great news. Villar is coming. Initially, we didn't have that in the plans, but he's been doing such a great job, and you guys have been giving out so much good feedback on him, so he'll be around too. Okay, enough with the team. We're super psyched. Hope you guys are too. Don't stress out. Just get in there, get your hands dirty, have fun, and we will see each other super soon. And as always, reach out. Please do reach out. As many questions, comments, feedback, throw it our way. They're always valuable. Okay, I'm gonna go see and check out the sun and have a beer. Ha det bra!